Hey, good morning. For those of you on the West Coast to the live training here on LinkedIn, and welcome to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon. I'm excited to get started on today's topic. We're just running through a lot of good topics this week, and today we're going to be talking about how to no bid federal opportunities. Sometimes it seems like we grab topics that might be basic knowledge, but I've learned over the last 20, 30 years that there's no such thing as basic knowledge that we all know. And I love going back to it because the type of things I teach in these live trainings are what I consider the foundation to your success as a salesperson or your company's success as a small business in particular. Larges are welcome, but really my target is small businesses who perhaps don't have the billions of dollars of resources to know what to do and to have the tools in place. So that's why we're here. We're going to get started in a second, but I wanted to just tell you about a post I put out today because for those of you targeting the Navy, it could be a really useful post. This post is sharing an organization chart for a portion of the Naval Surface Warfare Centers and surface and undersea warfare centers. So go in there. It's pretty cool because it has a couple of key personnel that are in charge of this PEO. And then it also has links to, I don't know, I think it's like 10 or 15 LinkedIn pages for Navy program offices, like Naval Surface Warfare Center, Crane, for example. So your ability to get there, because when you go to those pages, you can find people who work in those organizations. So it's great stuff for you to be able to go after. We're going to get started here. If you don't know me, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my daily federal sales training here on LinkedIn Live, where I discuss process and procedures for you to achieve success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people just like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. And when you follow the process A to Z, you'll get the outcome or the success that you want. Today, we're going to talk about the no bid process in federal sales and with federal opportunities. So we're going to dive deep into that. But before we do, I wanted to do two things. One is encourage you to put your company name and core competency, 2 or 3 words, into the chat so that people know who you are. I want to remember who you are. I want buyers to remember who you are, other people in this community, et cetera. And so by putting it in there, they'll know who you are. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I sometimes get people to engage when I'm doing this live training, and I ask you to put things in chat or comment. And the reason I do this is because we're trying to build this community of people who are in the chat with you. The value is really for you to be able to meet other teammates or even federal buyer representatives who come in. And so the more engagement we do on chat, the more LinkedIn pushes this out to people who are in our world, in the federal market. And so take the time to engage on the chat, and it'll be really helpful to you, I think, going forward. It certainly will be helpful to me. And a small thank you to me and my team that you're engaged and you're tracking on what we're saying. Okay, let me turn this running caption off so we don't go too far on that. And let's get started with how to no bid federal opportunities. I'm going to cover 3 main areas. One is why no bid in the federal space is so vital, right? Why it's important for us to understand no bidding and to do it correctly. The second thing is top signs that you should no bid an opportunity. So when you look at an opportunity, I'm going to give you some tips on how to look at it to see that you should not be bidding on it. The next one is how to shift left in your no bidding process. For those of us who do no bidding on a formal way, we might be familiar with doing it in the gate process, but we want to shift as far left as possible. Any process, anything you do in a process, the earlier you do it in the process, and that is left to me. So maybe it's this way for you, but the earlier in the process we do it, the lower it costs. And that's why I want to talk to you about how to shift left a no bid decision. And the last thing I want to talk about in today's training is give you specific steps that you can walk away with and do this afternoon or tomorrow to look at your pipeline and get it to a next stage. If you're a capture manager, business developer, you can look at the opportunities that you're responsible for and really clean it up based on a no bid type focus. So let's come into why is no bid on federal opportunities so vital. The first thing I want to talk about is just what is bid and no bid. Really, when you think about an opportunity, we hear about an opportunity, we say, oh, that'd be great for my company, right? And I pull it in, and all I know is the title. And let's say we're going to use SharePoint as an example today. And I swear I'm going to use different examples in other trainings. But today, let's say I'm using SharePoint. I see a title that says, SharePoint support services or something. And I go, oh, that's great. And I pull it in. Well, at any given point, as I move that opportunity from initial identification, or I become aware of it, through the sales cycle, all those steps in our sales cycle process, to the award, where the government awards it to us or somebody else. Throughout that entire life cycle, I want to be making decisions about whether I continue to work on this opportunity or whether I stop working on it. If I continue working on it, I'm making a bid decision. If I'm saying I don't want to work on it, I'm making a no bid decision, right? Really pretty straightforward. Yesterday, I did a training, and in the training, I talked about how it is better to have an empty pipeline than to have junk in your pipeline. If you have junk in your pipeline, it's an unreliable set of data for you. Obviously, you're not going to get the sales you expect, but it's also an unreliable set of data for everybody else in your company, all different stakeholders, whether it's leadership, the technical writers, proposal writers, service delivery, talent acquisition. Everybody is relying on the quality of a pipeline. And so it's really important to remember that it's better to have an empty pipeline to have junk in it. And the reason is this. If you have an empty pipeline, you will turn and do business development to go find opportunities that are correct, the right ones for you, and put them in your pipeline. If you have junk in your pipeline, you won't go do BD, right? You'll work on these opportunities, what I'm calling junk. And another way of looking at it is just opportunities we're not really likely to win. Why work on those, right? And so get rid of the junk. Let's focus on getting new opportunities in that are a fix. The next reason why it's important to do no bid is that it allows you to focus your attention. Just like I said, you don't want to focus your attention on junk. When you've done proper no bidding, it means your pipeline has quality opportunities in there that your company can win. I call them slam dunks, right? And so when you've done proper no bidding, meaning getting things out of your pipeline that you should not work on, you'll be able to focus your attention on opportunities you're certain to win if you just do the right things, right? And the last reason why it's vital, and it's something to keep in mind, is that it stops this wasted activity. One of my pet peeves in my professional life is people who think hard work means anything. It doesn't. What means something is that you're working on the right things, right? We all do hard work. My kids are doing math and it's hard for them. Hard work is not a description of whether we're doing the right work, right? We want to be doing the right things the right way. And sometimes when we haven't no bidded something, then what we're able to show is that we're doing hard work, but we're doing hard work on the wrong things. I'm just trying to get you to think about this from the perspective of let's do hard work, if we're going to do hard work, on the right things. Let's do the right thing the right way. Okay, so if you understand what I'm talking about here on the value of no bid to your success, in particular how no bidding really will lead to your success, then in the chat, just put no bid in there. So I know that it's reaching you and you're following along with what I'm trying to teach here. Okay, so let's move on to top signs you should no bid. By the way, I moved through my trainings at a fire hose pace. We've got a lot of training. We passed 100 trainings last week. And if you have questions, put them in the comments. Feel free to put them in there. If I don't get to them right now, I'll definitely come back and answer them. If you feel more comfortable putting them in private message to me, go ahead and do that. I prefer you put it into chat. That way other people can benefit from the question and the answer. But feel free to direct message me. Okay, so let's talk about top signs you should no bid an opportunity. One of my biggest favorites is that it's not your core competency, right? I said today we're using SharePoint as this example. Well, if I look at an opportunity and it says Salesforce and maybe the word SharePoint's in there, well, why is that opportunity in my pipeline, right? It's not my core competency. For those of you who don't know, SharePoint is made by Microsoft. Salesforce is an entire different company and platform, right? So those are away from it. You could think they're both software development to a degree, but they're not my core competency. And so one of the first signs that I should be no bidding an opportunity that's in there is that it says Salesforce. It's like, get rid of it. And by the way, I know there's going to be these exceptions where it is a Salesforce opportunity or SharePoint opportunity that talks about integrating with Salesforce. That's different. It's a SharePoint opportunity. And now it's just talking about, I want to integrate SharePoint to other places. And so you got to understand that difference. The way you understand it is by having a solid understanding of what your core competency is. That's why at the beginning of these training sessions, I always ask, What are your 2 or 3 words that you describe your core competency? Okay, so number 2 on why, or a top sign that you should no bid an opportunity, is that it's not in your target agency. I've described this many other trainings, and I hope you go back and look at this. But one thing I say to companies, really for everybody, right? It's for companies under 10 million, pick an agency and go deep. But also for an individual salesperson, a business developer, you don't see GDIT or Booz Allen saying, "Hey, John or Jane, you've got the Army, HUD, and Department of Education or something." No, they say, "You've got the Navy. Go get me $500 million out of the Navy." Right? That's how larges play, and that's how small should play. Is we should focus in a particular agency. So when you look in your pipeline and you see an opportunity that's in the Air Force, but your primary agency is the Navy, you should say, "Okay, it's not in our primary agency. Let's get it out of the pipeline. We're growing the Navy." Yes, of course, other people have SharePoint business, but we're growing the Navy. Our pipeline should be filled with Navy opportunities. If I allow myself to put Air Force opportunities in, what I'm doing is acknowledging that I'm not going to work as hard to find the Navy ones. It might be hard to find Navy opportunities, but I guarantee you the Navy is spending 100 million plus on SharePoint easily, right? And so you just have to find it. In this case, I have to find it if that's my company, right? So that's one example, Air Force and Navy. But the other one is, say the Navy is my primary agency. When I look at an organization as big as the Navy, they have buying commands. And 2 examples are NAVC and NAVWAR. Well, when I did my evaluation of the Navy, I said, look, NAVWAR is my target command, buying command, because they're, by the way, they stand for Naval Information Warfare, right? So most of the SharePoint work I want to do probably is running through NAVWAR. All sorts of other buying commands are doing SharePoint for sure. But the difference between NAVC and NAVWAR very quickly is that NAVC is all about water, right? Surface warfare or undersea warfare. And what it means is that if I do a SharePoint project over there, I also have to have an understanding of the skills between afloat and ashore, meaning building SharePoint applications, let's say, for a naval installation ashore, and being able to integrate it over to a battleship somewhere afloat, right? That's a whole different thing. I said when I did my initial research, NAVWAR is where I want to go. So when I look at my pipeline and I'm doing a no bidding exercise, I want to make sure that I'm looking at NAVWAR opportunities. And again, yes, it might be hard to do business development to find those opportunities. But if I keep junk out of my pipeline, or junk being things that are not my target, then I'm able to put my energy to working harder with NAVWAR to find those opportunities that'll properly fill up my pipeline. So another example of another sign of why you should no bid is that there's no requirement documents, right? If you're working on an opportunity, if I have a NAVWAR SharePoint opportunity that I heard about, maybe I saw it in a forecast, right? And I put it in my pipeline. But if I can't find or get anybody to talk to me about a performance work statement, a PWS, statement of objectives, the SOO, or other type of documents that are similar, explaining the requirements of that opportunity, at some point I have to go, you know what, that's not a real opportunity. If it was a real opportunity, there'd be requirements. That's a little different than if you're actually in the wire having conversations with program managers. But even then, you should know about the requirements. They should have been jotting it down somewhere. So my point is, if you can't get your hands on any kind of requirements documents, that's a sign that opportunity is probably just going to waste your time for months and months and months. You might have missed, my hand went way off screen, right? So the other one going with this is there's no movement in your sales life cycle. If you have an opportunity and it comes in and it just stagnates, it sits still, but it never really moves forward. You try to do different activities, but nothing you do is moving the sale forward, then that's a sign that perhaps you should no bid that opportunity. If an opportunity is not moving forward, it's because all the captured tasks that you can think of to do, none of them are working. None of them are successfully being done to move forward. Call this person, find this document, get this information, understand their challenge, whatever it is, all those things move a sale forward. And if you're not seeing movement on an opportunity in your pipeline, that's a sign that you should probably no bid it. And it's a scary thing to no bid it, because it's like, oh my gosh, it looks so great. Yes, but the minute you stop spending 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week on that opportunity that's not moving forward, you can lift those 2 hours up and put them on an opportunity that you know is going to win, that is moving. and you increase your chance to win by putting more energy into it. Something to consider. The next one is, and this is the second to last one, but your calls are not being returned, right? If you're making calls and you're following my roadmap of 30 days, how to reach in and how to touch people 16 different ways over a 30-day period, if you're following that roadmap and you're trying to get in the door week after week, month after month, but no one's returning your calls, that's a sign that you should no bid the opportunity. Most importantly, because of, I like how I say most importantly for two reasons. One is that there's a chance it's not real because they're not having good dialogue with the industry, right? So if you can't get traction, how can you learn anything to truly write a good proposal? So that's one. The other is, and this goes into a little bit more competitive, if they're not returning your calls, there's a pretty good chance they're returning somebody else's calls. Maybe there's an incumbent in there, somebody's already inside the wire or has developed a relationship. If they're not returning your calls, it's because you don't have a relationship inside the wire with these folks. And by the way, if you don't know what inside the wire means, it just means you're in the building, you're on the installation. It means you've built relationships with the acquisition or program personnel, right? You must have built a relationship with somebody to get them to take your call. If they're not taking your calls, you have no relationship. Really, is that opportunity worth taking up your time? And most importantly, I hate how much it frustrates us when no one's returning our calls. The biggest reason you should, and biggest sign that you should no bid an opportunity, in my opinion, is that rationalization. When you and your team are rationalizing the value of the opportunity in our pipeline, right? Somebody in your team might be questioning it. Why is it going here? It has this type of work. If you're starting to get into that kind of space and you're having to really work hard to rationalize and convince your team, to me, that is a sign it does not belong in your pipeline. What you want in your pipeline are slam dunk opportunities, opportunities that you bring and you show and the title makes sense. When people look at the task area titles, they go, oh my gosh, that's us, that's us, that's us. We can find somebody for that. That's us, right? Slam dunk is when everybody on your team looks at it and go, oh my God, they wrote it for us, right? And I know that seems odd, but you don't have to have many of those opportunities to start building a good business. You just have to work hard to find them maybe, right? But when you're rationalizing, then you're trying to take an opportunity that is not your slam dunk core competency opportunity, put it into your pipeline. When you do that, you experience opportunity cost, meaning you'll focus on this and there'll be a cost of working on this other one. But if you can get the junk out of the pipeline and you've got some slam dunks in there, you can put all your energy into there. So if you agree that sales comes from a strong pipeline with the right opportunities, do me a favor in chat, just put hashtag sales into the chat. So hashtag is the pound sign, right? All one word, hashtag SALES. Put that in there and give me a second to drink water. Okay. So let's talk about shifting left. And then I'm going to wrap up with a next step I think you can take this afternoon. So shifting left, if you're not familiar with this, all it means is if you have a process that goes from A, B, C, D, E, in that process, if you can take something and shift it left to the earliest stage, generally it costs less. And I'll give you a quick example because all of us use software one way or another. Think about LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn right now. LinkedIn develops new features that they put out, like LinkedIn Live that I'm using to communicate with you. So when they're building LinkedIn Live, you can think about at the end of a process, they're testing it. Before that testing, they're developing it. And before that process, they're designing it. And before that process, they're writing the requirements. What we say in software development, and I realize I just shifted left and right, but this is the left at the moment. What we say about software development is don't test at the end when development is done. I mean, of course, you're going to test it, but don't wait to test there. Don't wait to test in development. Don't even wait to test in design. When you write a requirement, put testing at that stage in the paper. When somebody's on a whiteboard saying, hey, I want a feature that does that. Well, what's the test? If we test it and we do this, it's going to fail. And I don't want to get too far into software development, but the point is when you test when it's on the whiteboard or on paper, the cost of a bug, let's say, is $10. When you test and you've gotten to development and you've deployed it somewhere, the cost of a bug is $10,000. Those aren't factual numbers, but guaranteed the discrepancy is that big that it's way more expensive when you test at the end. Well, for us, it's this same thing that if we no bid when we're in the proposal and our team is writing a proposal, we're like, oh my God, you know what? We shouldn't even be submitting this. We're just never going to win. The leadership finally comes along, right? The owner of the company, a VP of whatever, comes in and says, nope, we're not submitting that. I'd rather not submit it than submit it, look bad or lose or whatever. Well, it's incredibly expensive to no bid in the proposal phase of the capture lifecycle because all these people in the company have been doing basis of estimates. They've been doing pricing. The acquisition people have been putting their head around who do we hire? Service delivery is planning on winning it. And what do we do? All these people in the company have been engaged with it. But if you go all the way to the left, the earliest stage, and you no bid it, then the cost is $10, let's say, right? So that's why I'm saying shift left. And that's what I mean by shift left. No bidding typically happens during the gate review, right? A gate review is, say you have an opportunity, it's in pursue and it's going to go to bid. There's a gate in between, let's say gate 2. Leadership or some level of leadership makes a decision about approving this opportunity to move through this gate to go to the next level. The reason that's valuable to the company is because when you're approved to move an opportunity to the next level in a gate, that means the company has agreed to invest more money in this opportunity, more people, whatever. And so that's where they typically happen. What I want you to keep in mind is you can no bid every single day because the reality is you are bidding every single day that you decide to keep on working on it till tomorrow, till tomorrow, till tomorrow. Forget about the gates for 1 second. Every single day that you leave it in your pipeline, you have made a decision to bid. And so you're making a bid decision every day. I'm just recommending you also be okay with making a no bid decision. If you're the capture lead, the person responsible for an opportunity, or your leadership looking in, be comfortable. The sooner you no bid a opportunity that will not really win for you, the sooner you can shift all your resources and energy back to the opportunities that will win for you or into business development to find those good opportunities. I use pipeline stages, and I just wanted to throw this out for you to think about, right? And I use certain numbers as a standard. And what I tell you when I'm teaching is that it's your responsibility to begin to track metrics in your company that give you factual numbers. But the numbers I give out are good baseline estimates for when I say something like I'm about to say. For example, the pipeline phases or stages that I use, I bring opportunities into my pipeline. They're instantly in an unqualified stage. The next stage is qualified. The next one after that is pursue. The next one after that is bid. And the one after that is proposal. I should have started with my thumb. Anyways, so those are my basically stages of sales pipeline capture. And the reason I'm just saying those is when I put opportunities into the pipeline, 80% of them will be no bid. In my mind, when I'm trying to forecast out my pipeline and there's dollars in there, anything that's unqualified, I only count 20% of those dollars as ever getting forward. 80% are going to go away. And personally, I don't often dump stuff in unqualified, but I put that in for customers I help whose team does that. But you can think of unqualified as dumps. I saw from NavWar that they have forecast of opportunities. I dumped a whole bunch in that looked like they might be around SharePoint, for example. And my intention is then to qualify them, take them through gate 0 to get them to a qualified state, meaning I'm going to sit there and confirm that they're in my core competency, confirm that they're actually in my agency. It's not NavWar has it on their forecast, but it's actually for education or whatever. And I'm going to confirm that it hits this very basic criteria to go to qualified. When I go to qualified, I look at this and say 50% of what's in there will not move forward. And what I'm trying to say to you is you should have some number. You should have some understanding because every opportunity is not moving through the pipeline, getting a proposal written. Guaranteed, right? So you need to have an understanding of each stage, how many will be no bid. And when I talk about shifting left, it helps you understand. So qualified opportunities in my pipeline, 50% of them will not move forward. When they move forward, they go into a pursue stage. And in pursue, 25% of them, 1 out of 4, will not move forward. And by the time I get to bid and pursue, for me, the answer is 0. Nothing will be in my opportunity, in my pipeline that I move into bid that I will not bid on. I often see that companies struggle with having opportunities that are really almost unqualified, having moved forward as far as bid. And that's just because we're not doing capture correctly. And that's not today's training. But put those numbers in place. And when you have those numbers in place, you'll begin to track on them and you'll be able to understand how valuable no bidding is when you shift it left, because pretty soon you'll reduce the number of pursues down to perhaps even zero, because all of a sudden you're only finding in business development opportunities that are going to be slam dunks for you. So anyways, the way you do this, by the way, is use the gate approval criteria, right? Here's how we move it forward. And an activity checklist. I have 50 or 100 different tasks that I do in Capture. And those, each one of those gets spread across the stages of the life cycle, the sales life cycle. And so when I'm doing a bid decision, no bid decision, I can check off, am I doing this? So it's a checklist for me when I go through the gate. So if you understand what I'm sharing here about shifting left is going to lower the cost to your company and really increase your success, then put shift left into the task. Or excuse me, into the chat. Shift left into the chat. Okay, so we only got a couple minutes left. I want to give you a next step. It's a very straightforward next step for me. Look into your pipeline and do a quick no bid review of everything in there. Right? You really shouldn't have that many opportunities, frankly, in your pipeline. A typical large company sales person, capture person, probably has 4 to 8 opportunities they're working on. So if you've got so many, that's a sign that maybe a bunch of them go. But look at your pipeline, do a quick review of everything. Start with the opportunities that are in proposal, then bid, and then pursue, right? And the only thing I want you to ask yourself when you do this quick review is, are we rationalizing this opportunity, or is it a slam dunk? Look at your pipeline, look at each opportunity today or tomorrow and say, are we rationalizing how we could win this opportunity, or is it a slam dunk? If you want less junk in your pipeline and more slam dunk opportunities, put slam dunk in the chat. Let's wrap this training off with slam dunks. I'm only 5'8", 5'9", so I've never slam dunked a basketball, but I can slam dunk an opportunity. Okay, so I think we're good. I really appreciate you being here. And today we talked about how to no bid a federal opportunity. And the most important thing to remember is it's better to say no now rather than to lose later. If you found the training valuable, give it a thumbs up. And I want to thank you for showing up today. Remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.